There is something no one prepared you for, and it has nothing to do with working harder, earning more, or figuring out the next step in your plan. It is the quiet realization that your life keeps moving forward while something deep inside you remains completely still. You wake up, you perform, you hold it together, and from the outside everything looks fine, maybe even admirable. But beneath the surface, there is a weight you carry that no one else can see. A heaviness made of old thoughts, outdated commitments, invisible expectations, and silent compromises that have been draining you for longer than you want to admit. The strange part is that this burden does not announce itself. It simply accumulates, one small concession at a time, one unspoken frustration after another, until one morning you glance in the mirror and the person staring back feels like a stranger. That moment is not a breakdown, it is a signal. And by the end of what you're about to hear, you will understand exactly what that signal is asking you to do. Carl Jung once observed that life only begins to feel lighter when we stop carrying what was never ours to hold. If those words land somewhere deep in your chest right now, it's probably because you've been sustaining a version of yourself that no longer matches who you're becoming. You're not falling apart, you're simply overloaded. And the path forward does not require adding anything new. It demands removing what has quietly been holding you back. Here are 5 things worth releasing from your life, without announcement, without justification, without a single explanation to anyone. The first is the habit of measuring yourself against others. Every time you compare your journey to someone else's highlight reel, you betray your own rhythm. You scroll through achievements that are not yours, milestones that belong to a completely different story, and suddenly your own progress feels insufficient. But comparison is a deceptive mirror. It reflects only surfaces. You never witness the private doubts, the sleepless nights, or the invisible sacrifices behind another person's success. Their timeline is irrelevant to yours, and the moment you internalize that truth, an enormous pressure lifts. Stop measuring your Chapter 3 against someone else's Chapter 20. Your pace is valid, your direction is yours alone, and no external benchmark can define the value of where you stand today. Release the comparison quietly and watch how your own path suddenly becomes visible again. The second is anything that consistently disrupts your inner calm. Certain relationships leave you exhausted after every conversation. Specific environments make your shoulders tense the moment you walk in. Particular habits pull you into cycles of anxiety you recognize but keep repeating out of familiarity, obligation, or the fear of disappointing someone. Your peace is not a luxury, it is the foundation everything else is built upon. When it crumbles, your clarity vanishes, your decisions become reactive, and your energy scatters in every direction except the one that matters. Identify what steals your stillness and remove it without fanfare. You do not owe an essay to anyone about why you chose serenity over chaos. When tranquility returns, so does your ability to think clearly, act deliberately, and move with intention rather than desperation. The third is whatever keeps you circling the same place. There is a particular danger in stagnation that disguises itself as stability. You stay in the familiar zone, performing the same routines, accepting the same patterns, telling yourself that consistency equals progress, but repetition without evolution is just a well-decorated trap. You are not incapable of growth, you are simply anchored to behaviors and environments that once served you but have long since expired. Nothing shifts until you consciously decide to interrupt the loop. Comfort becomes a cage when it prevents you from expanding, and the longer you remain inside it, the harder the walls become to see. If you felt that quiet sensation of running in circles, of investing effort without any real forward motion, recognize it for what it is, an invitation to reorganize your inner world. Growth rarely arrives through dramatic gestures. It comes through the willingness to abandon what is familiar in favor of what is honest. Now, before we continue, there is something worth addressing. If what you've heard so far resonates with you, if even one sentence made you pause and reflect, then you already understand the kind of value this space offers. This channel exists to deliver the words most people never hear, the truths that are too uncomfortable for casual conversation but too important to ignore. Every piece of content here is designed to help you see yourself more clearly and act on what you discover. If that matters to you, take a moment right now to subscribe and join this community, not as a passive viewer, but as someone actively choosing to invest in their own transformation. A single click creates a commitment to yourself, a reminder that you chose depth over distraction. The fourth thing to release is the compulsion to justify every decision you make. Somewhere along the way, you learned that your choices only become valid when others approve of them. You explain yourself to people who did not ask. You defend boundaries to those who will never respect them. And you exhaust your energy constructing arguments for decisions that require no defense. This pattern is more damaging than it appears. Every time you over-explain, you hand away a piece of your authority. You position yourself as someone seeking permission rather than someone exercising sovereignty. The people who genuinely care about you will trust your judgment without a presentation. Those who demand elaborate reasons for your personal choices were never truly invested in your well-being. Let your actions communicate what words cannot. And notice how much lighter you feel when silence replaces the constant need to convince. The fifth is anything that consistently crosses the boundaries you already know you have. You are fully aware of what drains you beyond recovery, what disrespects your time, your energy, or your emotional capacity. And yet, you tolerate it, sometimes out of guilt, sometimes out of habit, sometimes because confrontation feels more exhausting than endurance. But every moment you allow something to violate your limits, you send a quiet message to yourself that your well-being ranks below someone else's comfort. That message accumulates over months and years until your entire self-worth is built on sacrifice rather than self-respect. Remove what crosses your boundaries without drama, without conflict, without a grand declaration. Protecting yourself is not an act of aggression, it is an act of preservation, and no external expectation is worth the price of your emotional health. Here is a truth that most people spend years avoiding. Your exhaustion does not come from a lack of strength, it comes from using all your strength to maintain things that stopped nourishing you long ago. You feel it in your body, in that persistent fatigue that sleep cannot cure, in the tension that appears without any obvious cause. You sense it in the gap between what your life looks like and how it actually feels from the inside. Letting go requires a particular kind of bravery, not the loud, visible kind, but the quiet courage of admitting that the cost of continuing has become greater than the cost of change. Many confuse loyalty with self-abandonment, remaining in situations that wound them because leaving would disrupt the image others depend on. But evolution demands that you outgrow certain versions of yourself, versions that once protected you but now confine you. The moment you understand that choosing yourself is not selfish but essential, something fundamental realigns inside you. The need to prove, to perform, to seek validation dissolves gradually, replaced by a steady certainty that you are finally heading in a direction that belongs to you. These invisible decisions, the ones no one witnesses or applauds, are the ones that reshape a life entirely. Sometimes you have to empty the room before you can hear your own voice again. As long as every corner of your existence is filled with noise, obligation, and tension, you keep functioning, but you stop listening. And when you stop listening to yourself, you begin constructing a life that looks complete but feels hollow.
People assume that losing yourself happens in one catastrophic moment, but the reality is far more gradual. It unfolds through a series of tiny surrenders, one swallowed objection here, one ignored instinct there, one silent compromise layered on top of another, until the gap between who you are and who you have been performing becomes impossible to ignore. That recognition is not a weakness, it is a homecoming.
It is the moment your deeper self finally gets loud enough to interrupt the noise and demand your attention. And what it asks for is remarkably simple. Slow down, simplify, strip away everything that pulls you further from your center. Because peace is never found in accumulation, it is found in alignment. And alignment always begins with a single interior gesture, the decision to refuse what diminishes you so that you can finally embrace what restores you. When you make that choice, even in total silence, your body releases tension it has carried for years. Your mind clears like a sky after a storm, and your perspective on everything shifts. It is not dramatic, but it is profoundly real. There is a specific kind of fatigue that has nothing to do with physical effort. It comes from living in contradiction with yourself, from agreeing when every fiber of your being protests, from staying when your intuition has been begging you to move. This weariness is invisible to everyone around you. It settles in so gradually that one day you realize you are not sad, you are simply depleted at a level rest cannot reach. At that point, the answer is not to push harder or add more to your schedule. The answer is to subtract. Less noise, less obligation, less of everything that distances you from your authentic self. Most people believe transformation requires upheaval, but often the most powerful change begins with removing just one thing and watching everything else naturally rearrange in its absence. You do not need every answer mapped out before you begin. You only need to stop betraying what you feel. When you honor that internal signal, life becomes less complicated, not necessarily easier, but more aligned with who you genuinely are. It also happens that certain things linger in your life simply because they belonged to an earlier version of you. There is nothing wrong with that attachment, it is human, but maturity means accepting that what shielded you yesterday might be restricting you today. So you release it without resentment, without bitterness, with nothing but clear-eyed understanding. And in that newly opened space, something remarkable becomes possible. Not a different life, but your actual life, the one that has been waiting patiently beneath all the noise for you to finally claim it. One final truth remains, even if it challenges everything you've been taught. Your life does not transform when you accomplish more, it transforms when you consent to carry less. Fewer pointless burdens, fewer silent bargains, fewer attachments to things that pull you away from your core. Releasing in silence is not retreat, it is clarity in action. It is the decision that your energy deserves more than mere survival. When you remove what has been quietly extinguishing you from the inside, something clicks back into place on its own. Your mind sharpens, your body unwinds, and your path finally starts to feel like yours. You lose nothing essential by letting go of what causes you pain. On the contrary, you recover what mattered most from the very beginning, yourself. If any of this reached you today, leave a comment with the words, "I choose myself today." See you very soon.